we are back, and we got some, got some pretty good news, I guess. We get some early results in. We're looking at the NBC News results as they're coming in right now, and it looks like the yes vote barely passed. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. We had the no in just a slight lead at 50.5 to 49.5, but it looks like NBC is calling it as passed. That is 1,278,000 votes to 1,264,000, which, I just want to point out that's not 5%. We were promised a 5% margin of victory for the yes vote, and that is not really how it's shaking out. So, it's it is what it is. It was always going to be a long road, right? But yeah, so it's a real shame. We'll see. I mean, you never know. It does take a while to put in all of those mail-in votes, which it's tough. It is what it is. But right now, while we wait for the final tally and wait to see, like I said, NBC called it, but this is probably going to turn into a big freaking mess, right? We already know that the DOJ, the federal government, and the Virginia state legislature, there's already like 3 different pending suits on the referendum from like 3 different angles. So even, a no vote today means that the saga's over. A yes vote today means that this thing's going to get dragged out all the way into the midterms. This is going to continue to be a topic going into the midterm primaries and the elections. So we get to spend all year focused on this. How fantastic is that? I'm sure everyone's as excited as I am. So, ironically, on this day, on this auspicious day, there is kind of a weird thing going on right now, right? James Carville, on his podcast a couple days ago, he was talking about what the plan should be for Democrats as they, as we approach this midterm cycle and kind of the marching orders for the party, what things ought to look like. And Carville, if you're not familiar with the guy, he's been a Democrat strategist for a long time. He joined one of the first advertising firm that specialized in political campaigns, and that was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Carville worked on a bunch of statewide races, and he was leading statewide races throughout the 80s. And these were not just like solid blue states. Carville was involved in pressure campaigns and hair-tight races every single time. And Carville, all through these races, you'll notice the political playbook that we're familiar with today. I encourage you to check out this guy's Wikipedia page just for an overview of the first time we got to see that sort of negative press cycle, that rather than promoting your own political candidate, you promote a fear of the enemy or a scandal of the enemy. Maybe they're cheating on their wife. Maybe they have drug issues, something like that. And Carville kind of, I'm not going to say that he invented these political tactics, but these are the tactics that he was using in their early days. And, this is pretty much what has completely monopolized our body politic today. And it's not good. Like, our candidates are never expected to actually, give us what their platform is. It seems like more than half the time they say how terrible things will be if the other guy wins. And that's exactly the kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. This is the one, huh? But yeah, I appreciate that, David. So the problem is that we have this sort of polarization, right? We all have to fight each other. And because of that, we're more polarized because instead of focusing on the things that we want for a victory, instead we focus on what the worst could happen with the other side. We demonize people that we disagree with, and we only think we disagree with them. You'll notice if you're willing to have a long conversation, maybe not about those most polarizing issues. If you have a long conversation, not even about the solutions, even take that out of the way. Just focus on the problems. If you talk to somebody that you have very, very different perspectives with on what a solution might be, but you ask them, what's like a problem that you wish a politician could help with? If you are a normal person that makes plus or minus $100,000 a year, you're just a normal. Maybe you make 60,000, maybe you make 150,000. You're probably going to have the same problems. You're going to have the same problems with your power bill constantly goes up, or that your healthcare premiums are always going up, or that your landlord, it just seems like, he just screws you every time. Your AC goes out and you're just supposed to sit in the heat for 3 weeks. And these are the kinds of things that motivate people. The divide doesn't happen with the problems. The divide happens once we get to solutions. And we're all polarized in these different ways of thinking that, oh, okay, well, maybe the government should really put the screws in those people that keep on screwing me. Or alternatively, hey, like maybe if things were a little more free and fair, I could just get my own place and I wouldn't have to deal with this guy every month with the rent, and when there's a leaky pipe, I could just do it myself. But unfortunately, that requires a lot more of people. Right? There are a lot of people that get motivated to pay attention to politics every 2 to 4 years. They show up and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Somebody tell me what's going on. And unfortunately, right now, the way that things are, there's this very 2016 energy, and that's for both parties. And if both parties have this very 2016 energy, except for like the shoe is on the other foot. Right now, the only names floating around for the Democrats, it's like a foregone conclusion. There's Gavin Newsom's kind of like the anointed, like he's ascendant right now. And then Republicans, they're like kind of like will they, won't they, with J.D. Vance or with Marco Rubio. And it's pretty obvious it's going to be somebody within this administration, right? And that was almost exactly what we saw with the end of the Obama era. Like around that 2015, early 2016, it was pretty obvious that it was going to be somebody within Obama's administration. It was going to be either Biden or Hillary, right? That was obvious. Yeah, and that's the thing is because of our actual political system, because of the two parties, classic divide. I thought it was David. It's classic divide. This guy, I don't recognize you in our chat before. We're very happy to have you today. But yeah, the polarization is like built in. Like we are these tribal creatures that, we to our survival instincts, or just the fact that we have this country that's very different than other countries. We are a how do you say, we're a lot more diverse than any other country on earth. Like, and that's a fact. That, like, just objectively, that's a fact. Subjectively, I should say. And because of that, I think that actually sometimes plays to the worst parts of the human experience. It actually gets people to be a little more defensive about their beliefs or about the way things ought to be, right? People think they know a lot more than they really know a lot of the times. And I could go on about that tangent for hours. You show somebody a couple pictures from the war in the Middle East and they act like they were there and saw it for themselves from a 1,000-foot view. And, it's tough because you have to do a lot of these things on trust, and these things build on top of each other. And when you try and rip out one of those blocks, you risk knocking over somebody's entire worldview, and they're not willing to risk that happening. And so they show up to, every 2 to 4 years and they say, what the heck is going on right now? Somebody tell me what's going on. And then you have somebody shove a video in their face. Oh, look at this video. If James Carville says if the Democrats win, they're going to do all of this. Or, oh, look at this video. There's a bunch of jackboots stomping around Minneapolis right now. And then people have an emotional reaction. They start getting really worked up, and they haven't even stopped to ask themselves, like, how the heck did we get here? And maybe if they were paying a little more attention, it'd be a little easier for them to sort of wrap their heads around some of these more inflammatory things that they see, right? And now here we are. We're coming into the midterms during Trump's second cycle. We're getting into the final act of the Trump presidential saga, and everybody feels a little bit deflated. Everybody acts like they know exactly what's going to happen next. It's going to be Vance with Rubio as the VP, and then Gavin Newsom's going to run against it, and he's going to pretend to be a moderate, and Vance is going to pretend that he had nothing to do with the war. And that's not what I think is about to happen. I'm going to lay this out for you. we can, I think, just because of the way incumbency works, I think we can be pretty confident the Republican nominees coming from within this administration, right? You can cite approval numbers and the war and all of this. I just think the way that things have always gone, that's going to be what happens. Now, next, with the Democrats, there's actually something that's a lot more. There's a better opportunity there, right? Because Carville's sounding off because he kind of knows where they're at. Trump came in as an outsider for the Republicans, right? So much of an outsider that it was easy for years to convince people of this fake Oprah quote that he was just a Democrat pretending to be a Republican, right? Everybody remembers that on Facebook, that quote from an Oprah episode that never happened. So Carville's looking at what's happening and he's saying the Democrats need to get radical. That's what he's saying. He's saying that he wants them to get really radical so that they have a chance for the politically ascendant populist. They can get some outsider in. And I mean, Pritzker kind of, because he's also like the hotel billionaire guy for them. But even he's been way too involved in politics so far. Thank you to whoever sent me that. I don't know what they call it, a bullseye. Whoever sent that to me, I love you. So no, I think that there's an opportunity for an actual outsider to come in. And if you look at like what Carville said before about like David Hogg, it's kind of ironic coming from Carville directly. Not to say that Hogg was like gonna be like the next Trump. I don't even think he's old enough to run anyway. And he's a little. I don't know. He's a little all over the map, even for the Democrats right now. I don't think he's focused enough, probably because he's a little young. But you could get, just hear me out. No, just hands up, dude. You could get like Stephen A. Smith, like show up as an outsider to the Democrats right now. And I mean, just for him as an example, but I mean, he has really staked out this moderate spot. He's kind of boxing everybody out of it. He's getting more vocal. He's kind of stepping outside of just the sports commentary. Like, you could get someone like that who just shows up out of nowhere. And that would completely upend everything that everybody thinks. Every prediction's totally upside down. The problem, and the only reason why I don't see this happening, right? The biggest hurdle, because the shoe is on the other foot this go around, is that Democrats don't have real primaries. They just don't. They haven't had one since Obama won in 2008. Because in 2012, Obama was an incumbent. I think we can all agree that that doesn't count. You're never going to oust an incumbent in a primary. It's just not happening. And by the time you get to 2016, when Bernie was winning, they pressured every single other person to drop out and endorse Hillary. And if Obama's approval ratings had been slightly better, then they would have gotten everybody to drop out and endorse Biden. But Biden was too close to the Oval Office already, and not everybody was getting everything they wanted. Not everything was working out, so they kind of had to shake it up a little bit. Plus, it's Hillary, and what do you know? Carville was working on her campaign. So if you just look at these political insiders, right now, that ascendancy could be blocked if the Democrats trip over themselves again. If they stop their own primary again, it might actually cost them again. If they are willing to let it happen, if they're willing to actually have a for real primary, then they could get like an actual populist outsider. But the revolution only works if it's an outsider. And if you look at the way that Carville's run his campaigns, if you look at what Donna Brazile wrote in Hacks, I think you can just see what's happening right now with Swalwell, what they're about to do to Katie Hobbs if she doesn't drop out of that California governor's race. They have way too much control, like an iron grip over their own party. I don't know if they have it in them to just let democracy play out. I really don't. If they do, it could be good, not just for a Democrat victory. I mean, like, good even for people like me, like people that are willing to compromise enough. Then we could actually like get some positive change. But I try not to get too hopeful. And I mean, to be honest, the way that things are these days, like a month is like a lifetime in politics anymore. So who knows, right? But anyway, we're still, we're right down here on the final count. We're gonna check it out. Yeah, I mean that gap only gets wider and wider. So I think it's safe to say it's over. Virginia is redistricting. We are moving forward. You can look forward to hearing about this every week for the next year. It's just gonna happen, right? And that's the problem. That is the problem. Why is my computer frozen right now? I wonder if you guys can even hear me. Yeah, so we're going to hear about this a lot, about Abigail Spanberger. She ran as a moderate. She lied. So, like, this is why you can't trust them. And this is why you have to forever give you have to always give your vote, always to the Republican. Don't even think about it. Just vote red. That's going to be the messaging. And as long as it's like that, oh, no. Oh, my light. As long as it's like that, then there's, like, no opportunity for change ever. And that's what sucks. Like, if it's always just you have to vote for the party because look at how dangerous, look at what happens if you stay home, if you sit on your couch and don't go vote against Abigail Spanberger, even if you go to the polls and you write in Kanye West because you thought Winsome Earl Sears was such a bad candidate, even if you did something as stupid as that, like, look at how bad it got. It's only been 100 days, and this is the worst governor in the world, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, that's what it is. As long as it's like this, it will never... Imagine if you ran a company and you were only getting, like, 20%. Like, they promised you all these things, and, like, 80% of the things 80% of the things they fixed cost you more money and were not things you asked for, and like maybe they delivered on 20% of the things that they've already promised they would do in the interview. And then when you question them about that, when you said, hey, I actually think that that's a problem, and they're like, listen, if you just give me more power and sign this contract that I can never ever ever be fired, then I promise that you'll get everything you want. Like, that's pretty much the reality we're living in Virginia right now. Like, because you can never fire the DNC. Now, don't get me wrong. You'll have a new governor every 4 years. They're always going to be a Democrat. And the DNC chair in Virginia is always going to be the same person, which means that the same donors are going to have the same bidding war every 4 years. And that's it. So, I really hope you got everything you voted for in the first 100 days, because you're never getting anything else ever. And now what? Now somebody like me who seriously was considering, like, maybe I should just stay home on my couch this November. Like, honestly, the Republicans in Congress, the Republicans in the Senate, they won't do anything when you deliver total victory to them. So, like, what's the worst that could happen? And then in 100 days, you get new taxes on every single thing you can think of. Your insulin's down $15 if you need to buy it, and everything else is up. Your property taxes, your retail tax, restaurant taxes, grocery taxes, can't use plastic bags anymore. Like, right. Like, thanks for the $15 on insulin. If I ever get diabetes, I'll be, like, really happy that you did that. Sorry your health insurance premiums went up so much in the meantime. But no, I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to share a personal anecdote, right? One of my favorite people to talk politics with is a buddy of mine who actually worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign. He's a little bit, like, in 2016, he was door knocking for Bernie Sanders. He's a little bit older than me, right? But he's still very much like a Democrat today. And I consider this guy to be very well informed. He's a well informed person. Like, he's watching Majority Report, I think. Like, I tried to watch one episode, but Sam Cedar was on vacation, so it was the Majority Report. And I'm going to be honest, it wasn't working for me. I didn't understand the appeal, but to be fair, like, the host wasn't even there. But regardless, my main point being is that every time I talk politics with this guy, he knows what's going on. Like, I never blindside him with a story where he's like, I didn't even hear about that. What are you talking about? It never happens. What does happen frequently is that, like, there will be additional facts He's never able to blindside me with some fact that I haven't heard, but regularly I'm able to like inject a little bit of context that he hadn't heard yet. And then I make him look it up in front of me because he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, we have Google, so we'll just look it up. And then we look it up. He's like, oh my God. And like, I don't know if this is slowly, I doubt that this is slowly chipping away at this guy's like psyche. That is, I don't believe that I'm slowly red pilling this guy, right? But we do have very thoughtful conversations about politics. But what I have never, ever seen, ever, is a clip from CNN or MSNBC or Fox with anybody from the Majority Report. I've never seen that. I've never seen Sam Cedar go on in a Fox interview or even an MSNBC interview. It's never, ever happened. But frequently you will see like, you know, like a Tim Pool will go and guest on like a Fox News spot. Or you'll see like a Jack Posobiec will show up on a panel or something like that, right? No, but when you see from the left these sort of populist podcaster types, you don't see Sam Cedars. You don't see the Majority Report crowd. You know who you see? You see like Vosh V, you see Destiny, you see leftist leftist Blondie, or like Hassan Piker gets brought up all the time. And my honest question is, I mean, this is going to sound stupid because anybody can just point at my follower count and be like, look who's talking. But like, does anybody actually listen to these guys? Like, honestly, like, are there any like diehard Hassan Piker fans that also know what's going on? Like, if you could you like, do you watch Hassan Piker and also are well informed like about like actual things happening other than just like, oh my God, dude, look at the drones. Like, you know what? I don't know. Because I've never met a person that could actually carry on like a regular conversation about politics without just completely devolving into semantics and like diatribes, like somebody who could actually, who knows ball, who knows what's going on, who can talk about the process and the rules and how things work, that watches any of these people. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, how much of the political left are people who are just being shown these like crazy, they're just being shown these crazy emotional things and then reacting in predictable ways. You know, they're being shown a Renee Good or Alex Preddy video, and then they're just having a completely predictable and kind of normal emotional reaction. How much of the left wing base is actually built up on top of that? Because if that's the case, then that would necessarily mean that most of Hassan or Destiny's regular audience is just like people like me that are hate watching it, and that just seems completely unbelievable. So I don't know. I don't exactly get it. And I don't even know if you like those names that I mentioned, you couldn't even really call them a political pundit because like they're just clip farming. They're just saying the most outrageous, ridiculous things and then clip farming for like the other team's audience. Like Nick Fuentes is accused of the exact same thing. That like he's just saying completely outrageous things so that he can get a rise out of those people over there. And it's just an easily identifiable heel, so they just get to stay in the mix because they represent like sort of a parody of the worst of my enemies type of thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. I wish that I could tell you that this sort of passive approach to politics would translate into a lack of enthusiasm at the ballot box, but that clearly is not the case. Just, you know, one more time, just for my own sanity, we're gonna look it up. Virginia voting referendum. I'm hoping it's just a bad dream, right? NBC News, going back to NBC. Yeah, I mean that's a solid yes. That's the 5% they were predicting. It does make you wonder though, right? Like, Because there is at least, like, we know that there every single election, because of the polarization, necessarily every election for the rest of forever is going to be people saying like, oh, that's not real. Yeah, that's why all the polls were that way. Didn't you guys see the GMU study that said that the no vote was going to win? Didn't you guys see the Emerson College study? Like it's always that. And it's like, how could Washington Post and Qantas, who are always wrong, how could they have been so right? And it's always something like that. So, no, after this, in fact, you know what? This time tomorrow, meet me back on Rumble, where we'll be able to discuss all of the crazy theories about all of the lies and fake ballots and 3 a.m. spike in voting. Like, yeah, because that's going to be what nobody can ever admit defeat. And this polarization, this disenfranchising your voters is how you get like actual psychos, by the way. Like if you put people in political ghettos, then that's what's going to happen, because they don't get a voice anymore. They don't get a decision, and things get worse and worse and worse. And it starts getting worse in the political ghetto. That's usually where it starts. And then they start getting a little bit feverish. All of their politicians that were disenfranchised, now all of those people are activated in the sort of underground system. Then as people start to get actually pushed out of like you get like managers and administrators that start like losing their jobs. These people become organizing forces. Eventually you start getting to the point where like enough people are disenfranchised and things get bad enough that they're like, okay, screw it. Like I can't leave. So now I'm locked in. And this is also going to disenfranchise the very first people. If indeed this did pass, and it looks like it did, the very first people that get disenfranchised from this is not going to be Virginians like me. I can promise you that. Because Virginians like me were never on the table, by the way. There was the consideration, do I actually go out and vote in November, or do I just sit on my couch because I can't stand Winsome Earl Sears? That's the risk for someone like me. But you get these radicals, these actual radicals. You get far leftists, progressives. Those will be since they were the deciding vote, they will be the first ones knocked out. You're done. You're done. If you are a progressive leftist, the show's over in Virginia. They will clap it down on you. And I'll tell you exactly how this happened in Texas, right? In Texas, there was that fear that it would go purple, right? There was that fear that they might actually go blue. So who did they need to secure the victory? They needed the crypto bros. They needed the economic libertarians. There's a lot of those in Texas. They're so close to the Baja Peninsula that they kind of needed those people because that culture is there, and it's just enough to secure victory. And those people are socially, those people are very libertarian. And so you need to figure out how to get those. So you have this thing. You have the card rooms. You have these free members only card rooms. They're not casinos. They're members clubs. They can operate in Texas. As soon as Texas got their single party rule, as soon as they locked that in, what happened next? Miriam Adelson makes a $100 million bid for her Sands Casino to move into Texas. And what happens literally the next day? The Lodge card room lock up all their finances, lock the front door of the building, indict the owners. Actually, I don't think the owners have even been indicted, which is actually points to what I'm saying. Like, there's not even criminal charges on these guys because they proved that they were operating their club legally under Texas law. They immediately start shutting down the card rooms so that way they can clear the way for the donors. And if you think that the left wing, the Democrat donors are a huge fan of the giant pride parades, if you think that they're a big fan, now, I don't know, just to say, some of the medical industrial complex is tied up as donors, so some of those people in the LGBTs, like the T's especially, they might actually be okay because there is a lot of money in that, and it comes down to a money thing. So maybe they'll be okay. But for the rest of y'all, like, you're done. It's over. Like, so I don't know. Congrats. I hope you enjoyed it. It doesn't actually matter though, because these are political locusts. Like, I mean, really, at the end of the day, if you are, if you are progressive, I hope that you can really think about this. The number of people I know that are yes voters that are also like, oh, well, if it gets worse, then I'll just move again. And it's like, I don't have that luxury. Like, I got a family, I got kids, like, I own my house. Like, I can't just at the end of my lease leave the state. But, and I don't want to go, we're already at the time, right? I don't want to go into this whole thing about disenfranchisement. Maybe that's a whole topic for another video, but do consider this, right? There, imagine that you knew that if you knew for sure, like that today, somebody voting on the redistricting referendum today already has their lease secured and they're moving out of the state tomorrow. Should that person have really been allowed to vote? And I'm not talking about like constitutionally. I just mean from a moral standpoint. If you know that you are not going to be there to see the consequence of your vote, like, you're moving out of state tomorrow and you're never ever coming back. Should you really get to vote in an election like this? But how far are you willing to go with that? Like, what if somebody's dying? Like they are gonna die tomorrow. And I guess for that matter, maybe they don't have kids, so they don't have it. It's not even like they're leaving a legacy behind, so they're not gonna see the consequences of it. Okay, but what if the thing that they're voting on today? What if the consequences aren't tomorrow? What if the consequences are 20 years from now, and they don't have kids? So, or maybe they're not even leaving today. Maybe the consequences are 20 years out, but they're only going to live here for another 10 years. You see what I'm getting at? Like, at what point, when we start talking about things like universal enfranchisement, apropos to what? Like, because that whole, like, oh, you need to own land and have a stake and, like, have been participating in whatever. And it's like, okay, but wait, cool your jets real quick. Because what if, like, just generally speaking, if we said, well, hey, like, the consequences of these votes, oftentimes, I mean, every single president that has any kind of economic disaster every single time, I'm told on good authority that is because of the person who came before them. Or if they had a good run, it was because of the president that came before them. Every time, oh, that disaster, that was because of Biden's policies. Oh, well, the only reason that it was bad under Biden was because of what Trump did on his way out of office. Okay, so if we're just all going to say that it takes, 4 years for any of these policies to have any effect, well, maybe, like, if you're going to die in the next few years, like, maybe you just don't get a vote. I mean, and obviously I'm being pedantic. I'm being a little hyperbolic. But, I mean, seriously, though, like, what if you don't have a long-term stake? Like, okay, so I agree, like, we can't just vote to rob you. But I mean, honestly, if you don't have, like, if you're just kind of a transient with no kids, like, then what, like, why do you get a say? Right? It's a serious question. I don't know. I'll leave you at that. Anyway, yeah, classic Divad, Hopefully, yeah, I want you and Hams both in the chat. That'd be freaking awesome. That'd make my day. But anyway, I'm always here for you. You guys, you're not always here for me, but that's okay, because you can always make it up to me by liking, sharing, subscribing. Tell your friends, call your mom, tell her about this crazy dude with the afro. It's what you can do. We'll call it even. Anyway, like I said, tomorrow on Rumble, we're going to talk about all of the crazy theories. We're going to see how many people are just completely denying that it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Tomorrow is going to be the big day where everybody says that it was rigged. All right. Good night.